Welcome in, I'm John.
And I'm Griffin.
In the world of news this week, Pedego dealers will soon be offering bikes from other brands.
Ooh, seems like a good move. I wonder which brands it'll be.
We're also going to take a look at a bike-friendly city on the shores of Lake Huron in Ontario, Canada.
Oh, Canada.
Oh, Canada, indeed. And we are going to answer the question of whether or not it's possible for a bike to actually have a one-size-fits-all frame.
Find out with us in this week's episode of the Weekly Recharge. So we're going to start things off by taking a look at some of the best finds on the internet this week in the world of bikes. Let's take a look what we got, John.
Yeah, what do we have?
All right, so we're going to be starting off in Instagram.
And to avoid congestion
Cargo Bike Mama.
Hear me out. Cargo bikes.
I'm hearing you out.
These bikes really are amazing alternatives to cars.
They are.
can haul it all from groceries and furniture to even my mom.
That's
It's
impressive.
impressive.
Oh, lunch bike.
Carry.
Cool, I haven't seen
Need
that
to
in a
take
while.
the kids out to get them to sleep? These
Oh,
bikes
she's
have got you
knocked out.
covered.
That
And
kid
it's
is-
possible to bike rain or shine. There's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothes. They are also a free
Fair enough.
workout, even with
I like
the
that
battery.
canopy.
And you don't need to be a pro cyclist to operate one. If my dad can do it, so can anyone. Plus, they are so
Amen,
much
sister.
cheaper. Americans spend approximately $12,000 a year on car maintenance and insurance, while e-bikes cost us
That's a
around
lot.
$500
That's a
a year.
That
Plus,
ain't bad.
no gas, just a rechargeable battery.
And fresh
Bingo.
air.
Here's a bonus. After congestion pricing kicked in, Manhattan saw a 7.5% drop in cars in central business
New York.
district. That's 43,000 fewer cars
Road
on
tax.
the road daily.
That's
More
fantastic,
cars,
yeah.
safer streets, and more room for bikes. Want to explore some options? Comment bike below and I'll DM you some links.
Comment bike below.
All right, she's preaching
All right.
preaching,
The good
evangelizing
word.
the good word of e-bikes. I like it.
That's right.
Thank you, Cargo Bike Mama.
Right on.
All right.
Next up, we have from Stefan Mueller Cycling and Pink Bike.
Oh, we're going over frozen lakes.
Ooh, that's beautiful. Wow.
That is
I wonder if
surreal.
that's Montana.
I dig this song
Austrian
choice.
Caribbean. This is
Feels,
Austria.
it feels epic.
It really does.
Feels very Viking.
I agree. I want to go raiding. Okay.
Wait, you want to go raiding?
Yeah.
Where are you going to go raiding?
Oh, wherever.
Okay.
Austria.
Austria,
Where they
apparently,
filmed that
yeah,
video. Yeah.
on frozen lakes.
Let's do that.
That's pretty sweet. Okay, Fazua. What you got
Riding in
for
the
us?
snow. With a pulling a sled. Nice. Okay.
I'm digging it. Oh, all right, we got one in tow. Just don't go too fast though. It'll whip the snow up into their faces and the kids will not like that.
Sounds like you've tried this.
My kids found that out this Christmas.
Ooh. Well, I'm sure they had a good time. All right. Next up, also from
got-
Instagram, from Cargo Engineering.
Okay,
Excuse me.
new year, new green moves. Hello.
That is loaded up.
Major cargo.
That's also a very long bike.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? Got like 7 different totes on there?
Yeah.
Dang. Okay, what's the bike? What bike we riding?
Trusty mini cargo bike.
Oh, you can even load up on the front too with that one.
Man,
Sweet.
that
Oh
is
yeah.
wild.
All the gear hauling. What's your New Year's resolution? Mine to go more on bike. And you're gonna that's carrying more than I can carry in my minivan, so good.
That's phenomenal. Yeah.
Good on you.
I'm sensing a theme for this week. Excuse me.
Once again, Instagram.
From
HP
Brad
Rad Power
Power
Bikes.
Your boy JT here with Rad Power.
Hi JT.
Giving you a little insight on my daily ride. I got my Rad Runner 3 gear ready to go.
Okay.
Got my helmet.
Sweet bike.
Let's ride.
That's rad, brother.
Some Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Looks like it. California, I take it? Looks a little California-ish.
Santa Ana Trail, Huntington Beaches, epic coastline.
Yep, there we go.
All right.
Heck yeah, check the views.
Nice path too.
Like right along the water
Wow.
and like, you know, when you drive somewhere, you can't appreciate the looks of stuff. You're just on like eyes on the road, but you can do it on a bike. Like, look at all this scenery. Fresh air off the sea.
You know, I like our river here, but I wish our bike paths went to the ocean.
I know.
He's having a ball.
I'm digging it. All right. American Beach House.
I wonder if he's gonna go to the pier. Yeah, there it is. Nice.
Oh, finally parking.
It's quite a ride.
Pacific
From
Coast
Boca.
Highway.
So there you go. Just a little peek on how I get down on my Rad Runner 3. Now it's time for you to find your bike.
Way to go.
Right on. Little promo for Rad, but I like it.
Yeah. Next up, from Paul Component on Instagram,
It's time to ride to work. Download 2025 Ride to Work Challenge. Sweet. What do we got? Ooh, we've got the calendar figured out, color coordinated. It's my birthday on the yellow. Where's the yellow one? July 9th, it looks like. Happy birthday to Paul, July 9th. And other than that, we got, let's see, green for riding, a lot of it up front. Kind of like,
yeah,
I can appreciate that. That's kind of like, a mix of car and bike.
Keeping it more consistent in February.
The orange days off, okay. I like to steal a little caption over here, like one up the coworkers. Those who say like wimping out because it's too cold. Not for this guy, he's still doing.
Well, more power to you, man. Well, I sense we might be doing that around here in the near future.
I'm sure we're gonna have our own bike to work everyday challenge pretty soon. Then ending things with Ride One Up's Instagram. Fitness goals are reached one pedal at a time. Today's the day. Stay moving, keep riding. Absolutely, just get out. Just be a little more active. Do a little more riding,
Do this. Get a Portola. Put a yoga mat on it. Ride it to the park. Do some yoga.
Hopefully, if it's warmer where you are. I'm not doing yoga in the park.
Yeah,
here.
not today.
It was 18 degrees, but I in general vibe with what you're saying.
Do more of that. Yes.
Cool. All right. Well, nice finds by the team and all the content this week.
All right, let's take a look at some news stories from recent days. So the first one comes to us from the Seattle Times. This is about the state of Washington as a whole. So starting in April, the state is going to be offering e-bike rebates to up to 8,500 residents. Sweet. They actually approved funding for this program back in May of 2023. There's $5 million allocated for it, but they've spent the last couple of years really developing the program. We've seen similar programs roll out in a lot of states.
There's been a lot of headlines about states having their websites crash because of these programs.
Exactly, and I even read the article talks about like a couple states where they had a certain number of spots, but the number of people who entered was like double or triple that. So they're trying to avoid these things. They've taken the time to really develop this program. Surprisingly, it's not a first come first serve sort of situation. There's going to be a 2-week period starting sometime in April. The timeline hasn't been completely finalized yet, but applicants are going to be able to enter. There are some eligibility requirements, primarily based around income. So your household income must not exceed 80% of your county's median income, but then you also have to be 16 years old or older, and you have to give them your name, address, and age, as well as that other income information. So once you're approved, you're going to go into a lottery system, and then winners will be chosen at random. So if you meet those eligibility requirements for income, you're going to get $1,200 back with a rebate. But you can also get $300 back if you do not meet the income requirement.
Okay.
And so we'll see when they actually announce this. We'll keep you guys posted, but that's very cool.
Yeah, overall seems like a really good idea too. Actually, I appreciate the lottery style system instead of first come first serve. It always feels like someone gets punished just because they didn't get the news on time or something.
Yeah, somebody has to work.
This is a little bit more fair if you're a little bit later to the game, just in the lottery with everyone else, and random chance decides. So
exactly.
I'm all about that. Sounds good. So also in headlines this week, this one comes to us from bicycle retailer, but Pedego dealers will soon have access to e-bikes from other brands. I thought this was really interesting, John.
Me too.
For a couple of reasons. Number one, we've already kind of touched on Pedego before. They are amongst e-bike only brands, like newer brands. They had the most retail brick and mortar stores at one point with over 200. I think that number's scaled back a little bit.
175 now.
Yeah, really interesting to see them branch out, and they're going to be offering not just Pedego products, going to diversify their lineup a little bit. So
that's exciting.
In the article here, they detail how this move is a decision from Larry Pizzi, the new CEO, who was appointed back in November. And a quote from the article says, what I'm hearing from the dealers is that there are new consumers entering the market, whether enthusiasts for e-road or EMTB or younger car replacement consumers, and Pedego doesn't have the product to connect to those consumers. So Pedego dealers will now be able to sell bikes from V-Volt, N+, and eMojo, but other brands will be added later. So like I said, John, I thought this was a really interesting, but probably a good move.
It's a good move, I agree.
Especially given the styles of bikes that he had mentioned in there. He talked about e-road and e-mountain bike. Curiously, those brands that he mentioned that don't actually
cover those.
So I think that there's going to be more to come. It'll be interesting to see what else they offer. But I think that's a really good idea with those specialty types of bikes. I think it's a little bit harder to just tell Pedego, well, go develop a mountain bike or something like that. That's a crowd that adapts a little bit more slowly. They'll kind of want to see how it goes. But this will be actually probably a good way to, again, diversify the lineup.
Test the waters.
Bring in maybe some boutique brands, maybe legacy brands. It will, time will tell. We'll see. And introduce them to the whole Pedego ecosystem. So I think it could be a good move for them. Excuse me.
Oh, I agree. I'm really excited to see V-Volt getting some more reach there.
Yeah, definitely.
N Plus, I took a look at their bikes. That's owned by Mercedes.
Very, very ritzy, very high-end looking stuff on there. Some crazy looking e-bikes.
Yeah, the display is pretty wild, but yeah, pretty exciting. We'll see what develops there. Our next story comes to us from the Pittsburgh Business Times. So Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania has a bike share program called Pogo, and they're going to be adding e-cargo bikes to their lineup following a $1 million investment from the Joint Office of Energy and Transportation. So I've got a quote from that article that says, as gig delivery jobs like Uber Eats and DoorDash have become more prominent, the investment seeks to provide an alternate, cleaner transportation strategy. The funding will go to Carnegie Mellon University, who will analyze pricing and charging for possible strategies of deployment to other cities. Pogo currently offers some bikes with electric capabilities, but these bikes are not equipped with cargo space. So the article kind of goes on to explain that this is just one of 25 projects across the US that were given a total of $43.7 million in funding to develop some bike infrastructure and other programs. So that includes EV charging access, scaling energy systems, regulating low-speed electric vehicles, and developing permits for privately owned charging stations. And those last two are also things that are occurring in Pittsburgh.
Oh, nice.
So I went to college in Pittsburgh, so that's kind of my home turf.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Good to see there.
Might not recognize it when you go back. They're going to have all sorts of new infrastructure.
I may not recognize it, absolutely.
But that's really cool. I like it. It's kind of like a multi-pronged approach. They're thinking about charging, they're thinking about, the infrastructure, and again, accommodating like some of those industries like food delivery. Just awesome, full comprehensive approach that they're taking.
And we need to definitely see more of that, for sure.
Yep, 100%. And then for our final bit of news, this one comes from Lectric. Jackrabbit is now offering a solar kit to recharge their micro e-bikes. So this is pretty sweet. We've seen a few other bikes that have solar charging stuff, but probably not enough. I'm actually kind of happy to see more, another brand jump into it.
Me too.
So some details on it. So the folding solar panel has an output of 42 volts to recharge the company's 151 watt-hour batteries in just 3 hours. It includes USB-A and USB-C ports to power phones and other devices. It's priced at $350, but I mean, technically it's only intended for Jackrabbit's micro e-bikes. This comes directly from the Lectric article. Even if they look and feel more like typical bikes, they're kind of like scooters, but it'd probably work for just about any 36 volt e-bike that requires 42 volts to charge. So again, John, this is one of those accessories we think is really cool. We largely associate it with Mach Wheel. I know Quiet Cat's kind of delved into it a little bit.
Yeah.
Especially like a bike like the Jackrabbit. We've heard from a lot of like boat owners, they keep it on their boat. It's like a popular way to get around like concerts and festivals and stuff like that. So places where you're typically outdoors don't have access to power, let's do the work.
That also kind of effectively doubles your range. Instead of only going 10 miles with that small battery, you can round trip, you can go essentially 20 as long as you bring your charging kit with you. So.
Exactly. Park it, let it charge, and you're good to go. So yeah. That's really awesome, but that's going to do it for this week's headlines.
All right, so we haven't had anything go live in the past week, but we have gotten a couple things in for testing. Griffin,
we got some irons in the fire for sure. So we did get our hands on some new tech. We got the bimodal Elevate conversion kit system into test. For those who don't know, this is a really interesting concept, and so far early returns were pretty fun. So
it seems like it.
Yeah, so a few details about this conversion kit. So it in total weighs 6.6 pounds for both the motor and the battery. They are 3.3 pounds each. And the motor includes 750 watts of power, 50 Newton meters of torque. It's got a really interesting system where you kind of attach to this rotor gear back by the disc brake mounts, and then it powers that gear through, So really cool concept design, been talked about for years, and we're stoked that we're finally being able to test it out on some of our local mountain bike trails. So, stay tuned for the full report on that one.
In addition to that, we also filmed our best e-bikes video of 2025, or at least our first version of that for this year. So that'll be coming live soon. And then today we're going to be actually filming our best e-bikes under 1,000 video.
That's right. We got a lot of best videos coming your way to help kind of get you into 2025. If you're wondering, hey, which are the ones that we think are top for various categories, we're going to be rolling some of those out here too.
Make sure you're subscribed and stay tuned.
Each week, we like to highlight somewhere that you can actually take your e-bike and ride. That could be a city with really great infrastructure. It could be a bucket list destination at a national park, or maybe even like a challenge, some sort of race or something like that.
That's right.
But not only do we look these things up ourselves, but we also open up the tip line from time to time. And if we got good suggestions from the audience, we're happy to highlight those. And that was actually the case this week. We got a good comment on last week's episode from Peter Knoll, 9575. Thank you for writing in, Peter.
Appreciate
He said,
it.
I was in Collingwood, Ontario, Canada last summer, and they have the best bike infrastructure that I've ever seen. You can go anywhere in town by bike on wide 12-foot multi-use paths separate from traffic. They have beautiful tree-shaded trails that cut through neighborhoods and join up with park trails and trails to neighboring towns. You truly don't need a car there for 3 seasons of the year. Obviously, that was a really good sales pitch and sounded super intriguing. So John kind of went and did the deep dive into this place, and it looks pretty awesome, right?
Yeah, it definitely lived up to the comment there. I dove in and found that the city of Collingwood has 60 kilometers or 37 miles plus of multi-use trails that he
Plenty of
mentioned
riding,
here.
yeah.
So to pull a quote actually from the City of Collingwood's website, these trails lead to every major point of interest in the town, including the George Christie Nature Trails, the shoreline of Sunset Point Park, the scenic lookout at Millennium Park, the tranquil gardens of the Arboretum, the Labyrinth, the museum, and the historic downtown Collingwood.
It's a lot of stuff to check out. That's awesome.
It really is. And the photos of this place look great. So there's just this huge network of both on and off-road paths and a variety of surfaces you can ride on. So there's asphalt, concrete, gravel, even have some wooden boardwalks and some dirt paths. A pretty big network here. There's actually a map that we'll link to that you can check out. It gives you kind of an overview of where the bike lanes are, where all the bike paths are. And it seems like the city is kind of working to constantly expand this, but they do allow e-bikes. So there's a couple stipulations there. They have to be class 1, so no throttle. They're limited to 32 kilometers per hour or 20 miles per hour. And then they also just have to look like a bike, so you can't really ride one of those moped
nothing
style.
quasi-futuristic or nothing out of Mad Max, basically.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
absolutely.
Noted.
They also, interestingly enough, must have handlebars and pedals. I don't know who's riding their bikes without those things, but that's okay.
Someone somewhere for sure. We'll probably see it on, some of our reactions next week.
That's entirely possible, yeah. But one part of this trail network really jumped out to me. It's called the Georgian Trail. This is actually part of the Great Lakes Waterfront Trail. It is 34 kilometers or 21 miles long. It used to be a railroad. It is now a rail trail. So it connects Collingwood to a couple of the cities that are northwest of that city called Thornbury and Mayford. And there's just a ton of cool stuff to see along the way. You've got forests, beaches, waterfront parks. There's historic downtown areas. There's shops, there's restaurants, wineries, breweries, all the things.
Everything you could
basically.
possibly want.
Exactly.
Peter did not oversell this place at all. This really is awesome looking, like some of these shaded trails and stuff like that. And the scenery is just beautiful. John and I are both kind of suckers for diversified areas where you can get some forest, you can get some beach, you can get, a little bit of variety. And this thing just kind of looks like it has it all. So really awesome suggestion. Thank you so much for writing in, Peter, and letting us know about this place.
Yeah, if you have any ideas of local trails or infrastructure like this where you live or places that you visited, please be sure to let us know down in the comments section. We also have questions at electricbikereport.com.
Right.
That is our email, so you can reach out to us that way as well. All right, and now for one of our favorite parts of the show, where we get to take a look at some questions and comments we've gotten either on YouTube or on our website, and do a little bit of a deeper dive into those questions and subjects. So starting things off is a comment from Thomas Henkler, 4969, from last week's episode of the show. He says, the whole 1, 2, 3 ranking makes no sense. 1, fine, get that. Class 2 has a throttle and exceeds 20 miles per hour. Class 3, no throttle and exceeds 20 miles per hour, but you have to pedal. So the bikes they have an issue with are really class 2, but 3 is what she is citing. Makes no sense. And this is kind of in response to a news story that we brought up about, I believe that was Oregon.
Yeah, Oregon looking to potentially not allow class 3 e-bikes in bike lanes anymore.
Yeah.
So
that's a whole different thing.
So thank you for writing in, Thomas. Did want to dive into this just a little bit more because the class system is a little bit confusing, especially if you're a newcomer to it. So I wanted to clarify a couple of things.
Or if you're reading the legal definitions.
Or even if you're reading the legalese, it's sometimes a little bit hard to follow. But in general, people for bikes largely championed the class 1, 2, 3 system that we know. So a class 1 e-bike would just be something that can be pedaled up to 20 miles per hour and no throttle on it at all. Class 2 e-bike kind of has the option to be pedaled or throttled up to 20 miles per hour. And then class 3 is where it is pedalable up to 28 miles per hour. So with that kind of basic understanding in mind, it's also worth pointing out some bikes are class 2 and class 3 because they have a throttle. But, Thomas had mentioned exceeding 20 miles per hour, the throttle should not exceed 20 miles per hour under the class system, exactly. So, And it's also worth pointing out, some e-bikes can actually toggle between class 1 and class 3 settings. So again, we don't want to like muddy the waters or confuse things, but those are the basics, just 20 miles per hour, 28 miles per hour, and what you're using to get there.
And also do keep in mind that that's sort of the overhead view, and your local areas may break those things down a little bit differently. So it's always important to do your research based on where you live.
Exactly, because that's kind of like the, nationwide aspect of it.
Right.
Again, you always need to check and familiarize yourself with your local laws. They vary by state, by county, by city, the trail you're on, really. So, just get familiar with those, and yeah.
That's a good start.
Okay, so next up we also have, this one comes from our best electric cargo bikes video from TerraStar, because I'm bad with names. There is no bike that comfortably accommodates a 4'5" rider all the way up to a 6'4" rider. Cannot be done without sizing. I'm 6'3" and need a large frame for a comfortable ride. The length of a frame is important too, not just the seat height. So I believe they were saying that in response to the Specialized Globe Haul ST or LT on that one, because both of them claim that on just one frame size, you can accommodate 2 feet, of different height ranges.
Yeah, so this was an interesting one. That is specifically the range advertised for those bikes, so that makes sense that he would be referencing that bike. But we actually got to speak with the head of the development team at Specialized that worked on both the Globe Haul ST and LT. So they used a tool called the Retool database. Retool is a bike fitting company that you can actually check it out and get yourself a fitting if you want. But they use this database of measurements to make sure that their bike would kind of meet that wide of a range of riders.
Yeah.
So just some things that we noticed when we were testing and measured when we had the bike here. The bike obviously has an angled seat post and kind of moved the bottom bracket a bit forward. So you have this sort of pedal forward design that kind of allows the height range to step up there. There's also a dual telescoping seat post that has 14 inches of saddle height adjustment.
Which is a ton.
That is a ton. Most bikes that we see offer maybe 6 to 8, maybe 10, occasionally.
Maybe,
but definitely 14 is very rare. And then there's also a threaded or quill style stem with about 6 inches of handlebar height adjustment. And especially
again, super uncommon. That's a lot.
Yeah, like most folding bikes where you get a stem that's adjustable like that, you have about 4 inches, maybe 5, depending. And then just the step through frame design has a 20-inch standover height. So those things kind of all come together to make sure that riders of all sizes, or at least that within that range, have a good fit. But it is worth pointing out that everyone's different. So 2 people that are 6 feet tall might have some different measurements. So maybe that range 4'5" to 6'4" isn't absolute, but most people within that range should be accommodated.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it might not be like the most tailored fit, but in general, the fact that you can get that such a wide variety of different heights on there is pretty remarkable. And even here in our offices, we actually kind of tested that somewhat. So we've got people on staff who are 6'5", and then I think our shortest rider was like 5'3" or something like that. We threw both of them on that, just asked, do you feel comfortable? Do you feel like it fit you? And in both cases came back with a resounding yes. So, it's, again, pretty remarkable what they can do. It pretty much is, it's as close as you're going to find to a one-size-fits-all single frame size. So.
Absolutely, yeah. Next question or comment comes from Lars Thorwald 3338, and this was on the best folding e-bikes video of last year. Had to laugh at this one. This person said, e-bikes, a great way to avoid exercise. Make sure to get one with a cigarette holder. What do you have to say about that?
Well, number one, I won't endorse the cigarette holder, but I'm not going to touch that one at all. But
don't smoke or vape and ride.
I was going to say probably avoid that if you can. But to the first part of the comment, happy to jump into that one because that's a common misconception, and I'm happy to debunk that myth. It's just not true. You can get really great exercise on an e-bike. As a matter of fact, there have been numerous studies done regarding this very topic. And in general, I mean, the different studies kind of like focused on different aspects, but kind of like when you read them all and do the analysis, it kind of comes back with a resounding no, you get exercise on these bikes. Now, some of the things that from the studies that I found, researching a little bit more into the topic, it's in general, people are hitting, the proper stress levels, heart rates increased, VO2 levels and things like that, that you want from strenuous exercise as recommended by organizations like the World Health Organization and the American College of Sports Medicine. They would classify it as exercise. So good physical exertion there. But not only that, but a lot of these studies found that in general, people will actually be pushing themselves harder and longer because there is less impact than a traditional non-motorized bike. So you might be going like 80% of the effort level or something like that, but you're going, in some cases, up to twice as long. So longer sustained amount of physical activity. So it's actually really great for your health. And then, of course, not only that, but mental benefits as well, because if you're swapping a car ride for a bike ride, you're out, you're getting more direct sunshine, you're getting more fresh air. There's a lot of people who just report being happier in general on an e-bike. So really, there's just tons of benefits all the way around. So we gotta push back a little bit on the notion of you can't get exercise on an e-bike.
I feel like we here in the office can completely relate to that as well. I mean, just from personal experience, it's a game changer. And even, out doing some of our range tests, I think the day that I put the most mileage out there was something like 79 miles or something in one day, which I would never have survived if it were a regular bike, but an e-bike, it was doable. And I was a little sore and tired at the end of the day, but it was
for sure.
fine.
Yeah, but even on those like max power tests and stuff, when we're like cranking full motor, my heart rate is above my resting heart rate. Like, it is physical activity and exertion. Even if it doesn't feel super strenuous, it's going to be better off for you. So
makes sense.
All right, so for our next question, this comes from Paul Walkenbach, 5730 from the Lectric 1 review, who asks, if I change the tires to ones with a more off-road knobby tread pattern, would the bike perform better on dirt roads or just make on-road riding buzzy? And on bumpy dirt roads, would there be a significant ride and comfort difference between the one and the XP 3.0 with front suspension? Great review. I would have liked to see a short segment on the adjustability and foldability of the handlebars. Noted, and thank you for writing in, Paul.
Yeah, agreed. To answer your first question, yes, on both counts. If you put knobby tires on the one, it will definitely perform better on dirt roads. But if you're on asphalt or concrete, it is going to make some more noise. That's just kind of the nature of the beast.
It's a bit of a trade-off, yeah.
But I mean, it's not going to be obscene like some of the giant fat tire bikes.
The 26x4 with super junky treads are definitely the worst offenders.
Pretty noisy.
Something 20x3.
Definitely. And then to answer your second question, so comparing the Lectric 1 and the XP 3.0, any bike with a suspension like the XP 3.0 is going to just naturally give you a little bit more comfort. That's, again, just kind of the nature of it. But also, I wanted to point out the XP3 kind of adds an extra layer there with its 4-inch fat tires. Those things are going to soak up a little more bumps and vibrations in the road, in addition to what the suspension fork gives you. Riding position is going to play into this a little bit as well. But if you're looking at the one and you really like that bike, you might want to consider maybe a suspension seat post. That'll definitely smooth out the ride there. And you can kind of air down the tires on that a little bit to add a little bit of cushion as well.
Yeah, great advice.
Seems good.
Yeah.
Next is on the Blick Soul X review. This is at 7 Furbag. Why do you never set your seat at a proper height?
Just laughing at the name a little bit, Furbag. Anyway,
no, definitely.
So that's a great question. It's one that I think pops up once or twice a month across some of our reviews.
Sure.
So a couple things to note. Whenever we are actually doing photos and B-roll gathering days and stuff like that, usually we're actually doing that with multiple bikes at a time, just a little bit more efficient for us to do it that way. But our team is diverse. We got different height ranges and like sizes, and so sometimes we're swapping bikes really quickly to grab that photo, and more often than not, just because I'm hopping on a bike ridden by someone shorter than me and I didn't swap that out before I took the photo. So
Griffin is 6'1".
I'm 6'1". Like one of our photographers, Christina's like what, 5'4" or something like that.
Exactly.
So like
it's a bit of a difference.
You're gonna see that reflect in the photos. Sorry, our bad. We do not encourage you ride with saddles that low. In general, just as a good reminder for people out there, or if you're newer to cycling, always make sure you have proper leg extension, because even on an e-bike where it might be less strenuous, trust us, after a few miles, your knees and your hips might be feeling it if you don't have proper leg extension there.
Definitely. So. I also feel like it's worth pointing out that we seem to get that question a lot on bikes that don't have quick adjust seat posts. So, a lot of times when we're out filming, we don't have tools to adjust those things on the fly.
We forget the tool. And
it happens. So anyway, what's up next?
Okay, so then we also have, this comes from the Retrospec Boca Rev Trike review off of the website, this time from Barbara Smith, who asked, I was wondering if this bike would accommodate a rider of 4 feet 11 inches.
That is a good question. If I didn't actually note this down, but if I remember correctly, the recommended height range for that starts at 5'5".
It's a little bit taller than most Trikes. Yeah, 5'5" or 5'4" sounds right.
So we took a look at that, and we don't unfortunately have anybody quite that short on our team to test that directly, but I did take some measurements, and hopefully that is something that could help you. So putting the pedals at their lowest, so that's the 6 and 12 o'clock position. The distance from the top of the saddle down to the pedals is 29 inches. So if you want to see if that works for you, you can sit in a chair that's relatively high up and either measure or have someone help you measure from the top of the seat that you're sitting on down to your heel there. And then if that lines up, then maybe that would work. But then maybe more likely here was a different case of the pedals being at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. So that's kind of their flattest position. That measurement was 22 inches from the pedal to the top of the saddle. So if that works for you, you could definitely, just kind of sit on the trike and throttle around without pedaling. That might be a better option.
Especially where you kind of like hop on a trike a little bit stationary when it's not moving. So you can kind of get up in the saddle as it were. You might be able to operate it and then just, take caution getting up or down.
Definitely.
On or off it, rather.
And then depending on how those measurements work out, there may be a couple of other options. So it seemed like there was a little extra length in the seat post. It kind of bottomed out with a couple inches sticking out. So, depending on if you're very close to that pedalable measurement, the 29 inches, you could potentially take your seat post to someone who can cut up a couple inches off of that, reduce that saddle height just a little bit. But then also there's things called pedal blocks, there we go, that you can add to the pedals themselves that kind of lift that surface up to meet your feet if you're just a little shy of that. So.
Yeah, so that's really good and practical advice, and obviously that doesn't pertain to just this specific trike or this thing. Anyone watching this, if you have some sizing questions, that's all advice that you can use to line up with the bike that you're looking at. So
hopefully within there's some combination that might work for you. But as always, let us know if you have any questions or comments down below, and we'll try to address them next week.
Hey, John.
Hey, Griffin.
You know what time it is.
I do know what time it is. It's
time for
Deals of the Week. Deals of the Week.
All right.
Always a good time.
So let's start things off with rad power bikes. They actually have a flash sale going on right now for 2 different models. Flash, and that means it's gonna go in a hurry. So it's actually going to end on Sunday. So make sure you grab it while it's still there. So Radixman 5 is the first one up. It is $500 off, bringing it down to just $10.99. So
it's a killer deal.
Yeah, for sure. We're already on the record saying this is one of our favorite handling folding bikes out there. That BMX style handlebar on it really changes the game up and just makes it ride really, really nicely.
It's nice and sturdy.
But it's got some other good features too. 750 watt motor, 672 watt hour battery, and of course 20 by 4 inch fat tires for romping around on unpaved trails and paved trails alike. So in addition to that, Rad's also selling the Rad Rover 6 Plus for $400 off, bringing that one down to $11.99, which is about as good of a price as you're going to find on any full-size fat tire.
Definitely.
It's fun, safe, reliable, all the things that you want. They've also got $300 off the Rad Wagon 4 and $200 off the Rad Runner 2. Those sales are going on a little bit longer than the other 2 flash sales I mentioned, but won't be there forever either. So, if it looks good to you, make sure to jump on it.
Yeah, to reiterate, that's today, the day that you watch this video, that Sunday. So if you're looking for bikes, now's the time. There's quite a few options there. Aventon also has quite a few options on sale. The Level 0.2 and Pace 500.3 are both $15.99. The Adventure 0.2 is $16.99. The full-size Abound cargo bike is $17.99, so that's $100 less than the short rack
That's a
version.
great deal, yeah.
Fantastic. And then mind-blowing, the Solterra 0.2 is just $9.99, so if you're looking for a city bike, that's the one.
I was gonna say, I think it was $13.99 at one point in time, so that's coming down a lot. That's a really good deal.
It makes sense, for sure.
And then last but certainly not least, we noticed on Electric Bike Company's homepage that they're still advertising an extended holiday sale, and that pertains to some freebies you get when you buy a new bike. So we've talked about Electric Bike Company a ton in the past. They are the custom cruiser bike company out there. You can paint your bikes tons of different colors and even spec it out with the features that you need. But in addition to that, they're sweetening the pot by adding in an upgraded anti-theft alarm system and a 5 amp power boost charger. So combined, that's a $397 value you're getting for free when you build out a new e-bike. So
charge your bike in half the time. That's absolutely great.
I was gonna say that's stellar. So that's gonna do it for this week's e-bike deals.
We really appreciate you, our audience. So we've devoted a segment to this show to highlighting one of you every week, someone who's written into us with a comment. So who do we have today, Griffin?
So this one is coming off of the website, a really good, insightful one too. So this is from Nappy Lopez from the Brompton Sea Line Review, who said, "Hey, nice to see you get to the Brompton. Living in New York City and having ridden or owned dozens of e-bikes over the years, I used to test e-bikes."
Oh, that's cool.
A fellow tester.
Heck yeah.
The Brompton is the only bike I'd ever sell, except except for maybe another to Brompton. I've had my 6-speed for 4 years. It's so incredibly practical, and it just so happens to be one of the lightest electric bikes out there too. Ironically, considering its size, it's also one of the best mini cargo bikes when equipped with a rear rack.
It's interesting.
You can strap stuff onto the frame, and the low rear rack means you can attach a tall duffel bag or large boxes in a way that's impractical with most other bikes. Okay. I'm also a big person. I'm over the bike's recommended weight and found it a good reminder that rim brakes are actually fine. As your video suggests, I found its braking performance comparable to mechanical disc brakes, given the speed limit, and not too much worse in the rain. Yeah, it's pricey, but it's also one of the few e-bikes with meaningful resale value too. I believe in that he tested out rebikes because there's just a lot of
little gems
insight there. But I mean, thank you so much for the detailed comment. And thank you for talking a little bit about the Brompton. It's a little bit niche, but we had so much fun with that bike. So glad to hear other people enjoying it as well.
Definitely. If you want to be highlighted in this segment, make sure you reach out to us through either social media. You can drop us a comment down below or email us at questions@electricbikereport.com. We would love to hear what you are riding, what you do with your bike, and we'd love to be able to highlight you in this segment.
So that's going to do it for this week's show. But again, thank you so much for watching. And thank you to those who wrote in, gave us questions and comments, and that suggestion for the trail system. Hey, next week, that could be you. Make sure to drop us word down in the comments or email us at questions@electricbikereport.com.
That'll do it for this week's episode of the Weekly Recharge. Thanks for tuning in.